Okay. Good evening, Ronnie. We are live. How are you today?
I'm grateful, Yasheka. Very, very grateful. And how are you doing this evening?
I am well. I am well. It's been one of those days. The life of a woman, of just a woman in this world, woman in this world. So let's just get right into it. Before I begin, for those of you who are signing in or logging on, thank you guys so much for joining us. Welcome to the Ronnie and Yashika's dating discussion. And we are still in our 12 Days Till Christmas series. And today is day three of that series, which is also the last day for our block one of the dating mindset. So block one, we got four blocks. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you check out the description. And today, like I said, is day three of our or dating mindset block. And today is just the add on kind of what we discussed yesterday, which is relationship patterns or understanding relationship patterns. And today we were discussing changing those relationship patterns. And so, again, if you are joining us for the first time, I am Yasheka Foster, affectionately known as the artist of dating, and I empower successful business women to date through self-discovery for finding everlasting partners and having to be able to balance it all, the tools they need to balance it all. And my partner today, go ahead, Ronnie, and briefly and tell everyone who you are.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronnie Walker, Master Coach of Exceptional Dating, Relationships, and Sex. And in short, we deal with dating, relationships, and sex from a self development standpoint. Now, with that being said, before we get into the show, I want to encourage each and every one of you to share this stream if you feel that there's something that others can benefit from. And as you tune into those of you listening in on the YouTube channel, make sure that you like, subscribe, and also hit the notification bell so that when we do go live, you are the first one notified. So we thank you for the support from all those thus far. We appreciate you. We just want to continue the reach out there to the many that we can provide some value for.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just as always, I was just checking to make sure that we are indeed live because we are streaming through StreamYard to Facebook as well as YouTube. And if you are coming in on any of those platforms, especially using Facebook, make sure you allow StreamYard access to you so that when you post, it'll know exactly who you are. So all it does is just ask you about confirming some information, and that's it. And that way we'll see who you are, and if you're catching us live, be sure to let us know that you are here. And if you're catching us in the replay, make sure you hashtag replay. So, Ronnie, let's just get into it. Get
Let's
into
do it.
it. All right. So, just to kind of recap what we were talking about yesterday, and if you're unfamiliar with what I'm speaking of, I've also included that link in the description so that you can go and check that out in case you need to. But yesterday we were talking about the different types of people that show up in relationships, and one of the persons I talked about was a caregiver, someone who feels a need to take care of everyone in the relationship. Of course, you have the alpha person, the one that decide that this needs to be that way or that way. But anyway, there were about five or six different categories that I listed yesterday of the way of which a person shows up in a relationship. And that relationship doesn't always have to be a physical relationship or a sexual relationship. It can be a professional relationship or just a friend relationship, right? And then also, I gave you three things to help you identify which if you are indeed that person. So whether it be the way you enter the relationship, the way the person treats you, the way you allow that person to treat you, and how you pick your relationship people to be in a relationship with. So by doing those things, you'll know who you are in a relationship. So today we wanted to talk about changing that relationship pattern and why this is important. Like I said yesterday, sometimes we realize that some things are not good for us, right? If I'm one of those people that always pick people who are abusive, then I have to realize why is it that I choose those people, right? It's something that I need to figure out for myself and have a better understanding or whatever. But this isn't to say that in a relationship that you have to change. If you enjoy being that way and you find someone that's compatible with you, then by all means, because like I explained yesterday, I like there's not a category for the person I am. I am the damsel in distress person. And so for me, that's what I want to be. I want to show up that way. So I would have to make sure that I date or engage with people who are going to cater to that damsel in distress, right? Isn't necessarily a bad thing, but if I feel that that particular pattern is not working for me or I'm not happy there, then that's when I need to start maybe shifting the way in which I show up in a relationship. And the way I do that is changing some of those relationship patterns. And so I also notice I have a clinical area. But Ronnie, did you want to kind of say some things in there?
No, I mean I think you're on track here, and one of the reasons many of us repeat these patterns, and I always ask the why. And usually, what happens is that, as I mentioned yesterday, there are some needs being met,
Hmm.
and so based on when you look at your human needs, the six human needs we talk about: love and connection, spontaneity, variety, some form of consistency, things of this nature. One of those, are being met. But here's the thing about having your needs met: you can have them met in a positive way, negative way, or sometimes pretty much like a neutral way. So if money, which to you means security, well, you can go about achieving that desire legally, illegally, or you're not actively in it, but you know what's going on, but you're still benefiting you benefit from in some way from this. So these are the things that, again, it's one thing to have your needs met, but if they're not met in the way that's congruent with your blueprint, your overall character, then this is where the crash comes. So please know that you have to understand what those needs are that are being met, and so that you find yourself repeating that. Now, it sounds like you want to say something, Yasheka, down there. Okay, so if we're going to start by saying, okay, well, Yasheka, Ronnie, how do we go about changing this? And I get this a lot, Ronnie. And here's the thing. Well, here is one way to do it. Here's one way not to do it. Stop blaming your zodiac. Sign on it. I've made a post, of people, excusing, and I'm just picking the zodiac right now. But stop. You have to start by a. Well, you want to start by a believing you can change. With this, Ron, you don't understand. I'm a Gemini, and us Geminis, we do this and we do that, and I'm like, really? That sounds like every other person in the zodiac sounds. But again, so you have to believe that you can change. You can change the pattern. Two, change your self talk. You really have to change the vocabulary you tell yourself over, because if there's one thing, and I'll just use an example of marketing companies. I don't care if it's cars, designer clothing, whatever it is. What they understand more than anything is what they put into your mind and the repetition. It's the same thing about, listen, we all know Coca-Cola exists, and yet Coca-Cola will still spend hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever. Now, we know a Toyota will go from A to B just like a Porsche. But truth be told, Ron would rather have a Porsche. Whatever. Again, so they understand the level of self-talk or what they're putting. Well, you have to take that same attitude towards the things you're saying to yourself. So if you're going to say, "Oh, Ron, this is hard," or this is too hard. It's easier said than done. I've always been like this. Things are just these things are going to make it so much harder for you to step into that. So again, step back. If you've just gotten out of a situation where you found yourself repeating a pattern, A, be happy that you recognize that you're going into that same repetitive pattern, but step back and really evaluate A, what need was being met and how it was being met. Believe that you're going to change this, and then let's work on the type of conversations you're having with yourself before you go to bed, as you wake up, look in the mirror as you're washing your face, brushing your teeth, or whatever it is may be, and let's just start from there. There's some other things, but you know, Yashika, I'm sure there's some things you want to add on to this as well.
Yes, and I totally agree with all that. And as we get into the whole how do you start to change that relationship pattern, I would suggest that the first thing you do is to name that pattern. So, if you're the person who is very codependent, right? And, in order for you to make any decision, you need someone to make it for yourself, right? Just be honest about that and identify with you are a person that's codependent on others, right? Just be honest about it. Identify with it because once you are honest about something, then you can see if and when you need to make changes to that behavior, right? Again, this is no suggestion saying that if you are codependent, you should change. No, live your life, live how you live your life the way you want to live your life. But I'm just saying, if you realize that this is not advantageous for you, or it's no longer working for where you want to be in life, then first thing you need to do is just be honest about it and put a name to it. Identify with the person you are when you show up or what you want from someone when they show up, then you can be able to help yourself better. So first, be honest and put a name to it. And then after that, you just really want to become aware of what triggers those particular behaviors, right? So if, codependency is something that, you feel that you need to do because you feel like you make the wrong decisions in your life or whatever, like whatever the reason when you feel like anytime you make a decision, it's the wrong one. So I need someone else to make them for me. Understand that that's what it is for you. Understand that it is when you have to make big decisions. So for a person who is codependent, that might be what triggers it when they have to make big decisions in their life. And so again, identify and then be aware of what triggers it. And then another thing is when it comes to a relationship with someone, identify those things in the relationship that are positive and negative. If I'm a codependent person and I know that that person is an alpha person, right? Say to yourself how that person being an alpha person helps you guys both. Like say it out loud, find the positive in it, right? Because sometimes we can look at things differently. So maybe we need to look at it a little differently, right? And maybe that will change it. Not saying to be dishonest with yourself, because remember, I said the first one is about honesty. But if this is something that you realize in a relationship, then yes, just make sure that you pull out, say, okay, I'm like this, but it's been this way because of this, or this is good for our relationship because of this. Maybe I'm not good with balancing my checkbook. By this person being someone that's an alpha, they are able to balance my checkbook for me, and then that way I don't bounce checks. So that might be a positive in something like that, right? And then, of course, another part of what that would be is to just uncover the positive intentions in the relationship, period, right? So if it works for you all and you guys know that you have the best, you have each other's needs and wants at the forefront of your mind, then hey, rock on with it. But if you feel that there are still some things missing, and because you are a codependent person, you can't get those needs met, then that's when you want to start just shifting the way you think of things, or just start to change the relationship pattern if that's something you choose to do. You want to add anything, Ronnie?
Yeah, no, I think that was great. It was awesome. It's for those of you, and see, one of the reasons you want to add, you want to identify and put a name to it because it provides a sense of ownership to what it is that you're dealing with. Another thing is, and I had a thought here that was incredible, and it just slipped my mind. However, what I will say in place of that until it comes back is be very aware of your expectations because one of the reasons people find themselves repeating themselves in the pattern is they get lulled into a false sense of security during the honeymoon phase of the relationship. So everything is hunky dory and dinner's great. He's picking the great things and truth be told, sex plays a real important part of this
Mm-hmm.
and clouding one's judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why again you'll speak to some people, if not just for religious reasons, they choose to practice celibacy because they realize that once you understand the power of intimacy and sex, and it just can throw all common sense out the window, or your lack to really look at things.
Hmm.
Whereas, for instance, you're solely going on what he or she says
Right.
as opposed to what he or she does. And
Hmm.
so now your expectations are so high. And as we've always learned, and as time goes on, is that the first sign of a challenge, a conflict, this is when that true person shows up.
Hmm.
And this is when your expectation comes crawling down. And then you realize, damn, I'm in the same thing that I said I wasn't going to be in. And so here I am again. And also make sure that you're communicating this, because sometimes, based on the mindset, and Yashika spoke of this, based on the space that you're in mentally, you may not have heard it the same with this new person as opposed to the past experience that you had. So you really want to make sure this is okay. You know what? Maybe I'm a little bit more sensitive or on guard or too sensitive. Let me just step back, ignite, and really replay this past conversation or this past weekend. Because sometimes you may be on the verge of just kicking him or her to the curb,
Yeah.
when really just says, you know what, maybe I heard it. But again, so having the conversation and letting them know, listen, you expressed this, and this is how I took it. What was it that you were really trying to say? And see, these are things that, again, you're having the conversations, because now you have to give yourself credit for acknowledging, the pattern that you may be repeating. And in this time, it may have only taken 1 month as opposed to 1 year.
Right.
So
Right.
these are the things that, again, you want to give yourself some credit, because this is where, again, stepping back and just revisiting some spaces. And
Hmm.
by not more so lowering your expectations, but just being aware of the expectations that you're putting on the person, because you don't want to put all the weight on them.
Right.
Because again, it may not be that person. It just, again, may be you. So those are the things I just wanted to add. Is there anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to kind of explore that a little bit. I've seen situations where, let me find something really small. So, say for example, a person is in a relationship where that person was a caregiver. Like they always made sure that they took care of everything. Bills paid, house cleaned, kids taken care of, just meal on a table, anything you need is in the house, right? Because that person's role more so was the caregiver, right? So if I was using me, for example, I'm the caregiver in this situation, whereas that the other person is more or less puts on the act of being codependent. In other words, everything that I do is like they're waiting on me to make a decision, right? Well, in the next relationship, that person may very well take on the role of the alpha person, right? As opposed to the role that they had before. Because the first time they were in a codependent relationship, now they're in an alpha relationship where all the things that was done for them in a past relationship, they're now doing it. So here's the problem with that. When that person is not showing up in either relationship as their authentic self and what they can do long term, that's when things start to shift a little bit in a relationship. So if I know for a fact that I am a codependent person, but yet I showed up as an alpha person or whatever reason in this relationship because I'm realizing that this person is more codependent than I am, and somebody has to be in charge, somebody has to make a decision. So I'm showing up as an alpha person. After a while, I am going to start resenting some things, whether it be that person, the relationship, or both, because that is something that I cannot abstain. I cannot withhold that all the time because now I got to always show up. I got to always, be the alpha. I got to always make the decisions, whatever.
Exactly.
And that's when things start to so that's when sometimes you'll hear people say, I outgrew that person, right? And sometimes it's not about you outgrew that person. It's just that your representative showed up at first. And now that the real you wants to be seen or heard, whatever that looks like, now you're trying to bring that person in, whereas that person didn't fall for that person that that you originally were. They felt for the person that you pretended to be. And so sometimes people have to really look at that and say, okay, am I requiring something different that I didn't ask for in the beginning? Did I did am I asking that person now to be an alpha when I showed up as an alpha, but now I want to be codependent, but yet I'm expecting them to change roles, right? You have to understand that. Be honest about that. You know what I mean? Because like I said, after a while, you start to do a little push and pull. And I'm not saying this is the blanket statement for everything. It's not a one size fit all. You have to really just take a look at yourself in the relationship and just ask yourself the question: am I being my true authentic self? Period. And if you're like, you know what, I can't be this girl that swings from the chandelier every night, right? you know, let that be known. Don't go in there pretending like you're gonna do it, do it that way every day, and you know that you can't sustain it. Because guess what? That person is gonna be expecting you to show up that way every day.
Right, right, exactly. And see, this is what growth is about. And let me say, this is yet another reason why coaching is so important. The therapy is so important. And again, one of the main reasons Yashika and I are on this platform sharing this, because the thing about growth is, let's just say the person that you were in that relationship maybe a year ago, and let's say you took a little time off and looking into yourself, you may show up as a totally different person.
Mhm.
So with that being said, you may be looking for a totally different person again. But if you're not doing the self evaluation and not really finding out what your authentic self is and what that looks like, then you're going to, again, you're putting yourself right back in this situation. I'll give you another example. Let's just say when everyone likes to talk about the love languages or how they're getting their needs met, you'll have people who consider, but I told him, what my love language is and what my love language. I told her what my love language is, and I says, okay, well, that's a good start. Did you explain how you need those love languages addressed? And each time I get silence. So you have to again remember that if you're communicating, you want to be effective in your communication. Do I have to spell it out? Yes, you do. Yes, this whole mindset reading. Listen, if you're lucky, he'll have observed every single syllable you said. And he's going to come through and know what your favorite color is, what your dress size is, what type of wine you like, if you don't like wine, if you're a carnivore, if you're vegan. But let's face it, that happens more often in the movies than in real life. So what you want to do is get better in your communication. So let's just say, for instance, hey, I pick a man, and when we talk about going to comedy clubs, he likes these type of men, always like this. Well, then when you say I want to, I have a sense of humor. Well, what is that sense of humor? Is it Dave Chappelle? Is it Kevin Hart? Is it D.L. Hughley? Whatever that may be, they are all different styles. If you like music, okay, R&B. I like R&B. Really, really, R&B from the 70s, from the 80s, from the 90s. Again, these are those things that, again, once you start going deeper, scratching a little bit below the surface, you will find yourself finding out that the person that you're attracting says, okay, well, I'm not really into this. And again, they tend to work themselves out of the situation even before you got a chance to get into this pattern. So again, just in the way you communicate will also help you break those patterns as well.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, it's not always, these patterns are not always negative. You know what I mean? If when you have an open, honest conversation
Right.
with your partner, like I said, it doesn't always have to be a romantic partner. It can be a friendship, or it can be a work relationship. If you're just really honest about, now granted, if you're the boss, you can't be up in there saying, I'm really not a person that wants to be in charge. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. Know your role, right? But just when it comes to just more personal relationships, just be honest about it. And even if you are the person that's in charge, and like you often hear people say, I'm really what is it, an introvert, but I pretend to be an extrovert. If that's true, then that's true. And maybe sometimes if you are in the profession and you're not really used to being the person who gets in front of people and make big speeches or make tough decisions, but your job requires you to do these things, then hey, you may very well have to put on that facade. But then understand that there has to be a balance in order for you to feel fulfilled, right? There has to be a balance. So if you're having to be this person that shows up like this all the time and that's not really you, balance it out. Give out, some Christmas cards. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, I don't feel so bad about chewing that person out because I gave them a $25 gift card for a honey baked ham. You know what I mean? At Christmas time. So do whatever you got to do to balance it out so that you can be happy. And that's the same way it is in your personal relationship. You know what I mean? If you and that person is meant to be together, or if it's going to last, just show up as your authentic self. Being honest and showing, hey, this is me, this is who I am, and take me or leave me. I always tell people, I am who I am and I make no excuses. Like, I've been saying that for years. I am who I am and I make no excuses because, I know that I'm a lot in any relationship, whether it's a friendship or a relationship, an intimate relationship, or, even in a work environment. I know that I'm a lot, and I know that everybody can't take me at all times. And I'm aware of that. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to force anybody to do so. But I also know that from a personal standpoint, when it comes to the friends that I keep myself around, or when it comes to the dates that the men that's in my life, from an intimate standpoint, I have to know that that person has to know that about me. Because if I showed up like I'm just this this person, like this old dainty person, that I'm just like, oh my god, all the time, they know that's not true. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to be a damsel in distress, but I'm saying you're gonna get some of this sometime. You know what I mean? But if I show up like, well, whatever you like, I don't care, whatever you like, then all of a sudden, on day 10, I'm like, what? And eye rolling and head twitching and all that. They're gonna be like, what the heck? What happened to the Yashika I met and love? You know what I mean? And so they know that they're gonna get that with me. They know that they're gonna get, okay. I'm not saying that I'm gonna be combative, but I'm gonna let you know what's on my mind because I am an inside outward thinker. You know what I mean? And so but that's just me being honest, and I don't even know if um I can't even recall a time in my life where, from a personal standpoint, meaning either my friends, like my friend circle, my women friend circles, or whether it was a relationship, I can't recall a time where I showed up any differently because I didn't know how to be different. And I'm not saying that the way I show up is always the right way, or the wrong way. It's just that I only knew how to be me, regardless of what I'm doing. And so, sometimes that's not pretty. You know what I mean? And what I mean by not pretty is I'm not gonna always be, prim and pritzer. You know what I mean? Sometimes that Yashika from Detroit might come out. You know what I mean? And it's not always pretty. So but just being honest and knowing that, for me, on a personal level, when I'm choosing a partner, I have to have someone that understands that. But I also have to be adult enough to know that somebody that I want or desire, it may not work for them. And that's okay. That just means that that's not the person that's for me. That's it. You know what I mean? That's it. We cannot force a square peg to fit in a round hole. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes we get caught so much into that sometimes that we, want this or we want that we pretend to be something because we think that that person needs us to show up that way. And it may very well be that that person needs you to show a particular way. But if that doesn't work for you and that's not who you are, then that's just not the person for you. That's it. That's it. And I know that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, but that's it. We can avoid so much heartache, so much turmoil in our lives if we're just honest about that part. So, yeah, that's all I have. I'm going to get off my soapbox.
No, no, I think that's great. I mean, that's one of the things I can say. Like everyone else, Yashik and I are no different. We're humans. We're not some robot. And I know in my growth of dating, of not asking certain questions and finding myself in certain patterns, didn't make them bad women. They were just not the women for me.
All right.
Even though there are times I expressed that I think there's some work that still needs to be done outside of me that they didn't address. But again, I didn't condemn them or belittle them or whatever.
Right.
I wish them well on that journey. But I knew that we were at a place where to go down this road, it was not going to end well for either of us. So why put both of us through this? Again, because it's not just about Ronnie,
Hmm.
but I've gotten better at the questions that I ask.
Right.
To the point that even in the future, as I'm having these conversations, women will be like, "But damn, Ron, am I under interrogation?" I'm like, "No," and I would explain, and then I would put information forward because you can anticipate the questions that would come. But I'm pleased that I make it known. I said, if you need to know Ronnie Walker, make no mistake about it, there will be some questions asked, and I
Yeah,
will explain my reason for that. And again, she's not obligated to answer them. She doesn't have to. However, then I have to make my assessments because again, in order to have the certain needs that I want met, then I need to know the answers to such questions. And some of them, you learn to adapt. But again, I still want her to be who she is,
right.
in her true self, and I want to be who I am. And it's through that then we can both come to an adult mutual decision that we either have a chance at something bigger or we don't. But
Yeah,
communication, as you mentioned, is just and I'll always stand by saying is very, very important. But effective communication.
yeah,
So then again, this is our personal stories
yeah.
in this space, ladies and gentlemen. We're not just talking just from the people that we work with, but our own personal journeys.
Absolutely. And how and you said something, and then that is important, being honest about it and having those tough conversations. And sometimes people feel like it's a job interview, but I'm not saying on day one or the first time you meet a person, load them up with 10,000 questions.
Exactly right. Exactly.
There's a balance to it, but don't wait until you guys are going down an altar to say, okay, by the way, do you want to have kids? You know what I mean? Like, you guys should have talked about that day one. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so I remember there was a woman comedian some years ago. I can't remember who it was, but I guess she had got set up in a blind date. And when she got to the blind date, she pretty much sat down with him and she said, okay, tell you what, I'm not gonna waste your time. I don't want you to waste my time. On site, I know this shit ain't gonna work out. So you know what I mean? So literally, that's just some true honesty. You understand what I'm saying? Like, other words, I already know when I came in the room, we didn't gaze eyes, like I look past, but whatever she felt in that moment, she knew that she would be wasting her time and his time. Whereas that some people will say, well, let me just see, because they're trying to show up different or make something fit that doesn't, or they don't want to have those tough conversations. But honesty is always key. That is always the key.
Ladies, let me tell you something. Regardless of whether I don't know what or who may be telling you this information, but there's nothing more sexy than a woman who's upfront with a man, very first date straight up,
Mhm.
or at the end of the date. If she and I've been on those, and when I tell you, I said, well, listen, there's no need to end the dinner now. Haven't had dessert. Let's have dessert and drinks after. Because we understood where we are, and we says, okay, but I'm damn sure gonna make the rest of this night because, truth be told, up until that, I felt that she was great company just the same. So I wasn't going to get myself all up in my quote unquote feelings and get all upset because I'm rejected or whatever. No, here's a woman who just laid it on the line based on the conversations we've had,
Mhm.
prior to, and then now, then, hey, this is what I feel and this is why I feel.
Right.
And I says, okay, you know what? Thank you for your honesty. Now, she could have waited 2, 3, 5 dates
Yep.
down the road. Could have went and spent money on a vacation somewhere. But no, this is what it is, and
Mhm.
this is why, and I honor that. And
Yes.
and, and I'm telling you, if more women, and see, here's the thing, many women think that they're all like that, and I'm telling you they're not, because I'm the one listening to the men and their horror stories and dates. So I'm just giving you my personal experience that this is something that's just like, Yashika was just saying. Just say what it is. In this case, this woman was right off the rip.
Yeah.
Others will wait before dessert. Others wait after dessert. Others wait till you get to the car. Whatever it is. But
Yeah.
again, just be upfront and honest because you still want, no matter what happens, she still has to be who she is,
Mhm.
chose to be, and he has to be who he is and has chosen to be. So that
And
is my.
I've
I'm
even
sorry.
heard women say, well, sometimes, I don't want him to make, I don't want to make him feel like he's on a job interview. And I will say this, ladies, for those of you who feel that way, those are your feelings, right? And then there will be some people who will avoid answering some questions. And for me, in this day and age, or should I say at this age in my life, if I'm talking to someone and I'm asking questions and they're like, well, why are you asking all these questions? Or they start getting uncomfortable. That's because from my personal experience, they have some stuff they're trying to hide. That's all that is. And they don't want to tell you something that they're gonna forget they told you later. Like they're not quick with their lies. That's the where it's been with in my experiences. So anybody who has been uncomfortable about some things that I'm asking them, and that means that they're not trying to be truthful. They don't want to be truthful. There's some things about them that they don't want you to know. So those people, I would just say, beware moving forward. From that point on, just be aware of that person and just keep that in mind. But anybody who is really, really secure in what they got going on and secure in themselves, and they're not on some BS, they will be okay answering questions, especially if it's presented in a way where it's not like a rapid fire. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's through conversation. They'll be okay with that. Because people are really afraid to. Well, I don't want to ask too many questions on a first date. Ask as much as you need to ask first, second, third date because time is. Listen, no one can get time back. I don't care how rich or poor we are in this world. Everyone has the same amount of hours every day. So you don't want to continue wasting your time with someone that is not going to be truthful about who they are or show up differently or whatever. You want to ask the question so that you can be more understanding, or you can be more aware of who you're dealing with, so you can know if you want to gift them with any more of your time, because clearly your time is a gift. That's it. Your time is a gift. You know what I mean? So yeah, but that's all I have to say about that. So what else we? Okay, what else you got, Ronnie? You're on mute.
We could go on. I mean, again, you may ask, what does this have to do with patterns? And I always say, know your whys,
Hmm.
and you part of knowing the whys is just asking the questions. We want to make sure that we are accepting, that there's something that has to change. We have to be accountable to that. And part of that accountability may just be talking with a coach, with a therapist, you know. And I don't want to discount friends and family that have been there and your ride or die through your life of just bouncing those things off of you. Again, you'd be surprised at how many people underestimate, of course, with the right people, you know, the things that you are experiencing
Yeah,
and just sharing some thoughts. Now again, if you are not open to that, that is your choice.
right.
But please make sure that you address that. So if it's something that you may feel overwhelmed, it's okay to step back out of that. Because sometimes repeating a bad pattern, you know, that doesn't serve you long term.
Right.
Second or third time, it may cause some sort of fear that you don't want to get back in a vulnerable state. So then step back, just sit ahead and reassess. And that does mean, and I'm big on taking out a pen and paper and just writing your thoughts down and reading it back.
Yeah,
It may take reading a book, meditation,
absolutely.
whatever it is. Again, you want to make sure that as you're in this space and growth from what you were before, then you want to make sure that you've put yourself mentally in a space that's very, very strong
Right.
so that you can attack it, or not attack it, it's not the best word. You can address it, you know, with the positivity that's needed to move forward. And give
Absolutely.
yourself credit for the small victories that you've achieved in identifying that if it wasn't, 1 year, you've caught it in 6 months or 1 month. Or hell, it just as uh, we talked about, it could be on the first date.
Yeah.
That's something that he or she shared that says, okay, up, I
Yeah.
see this is about to repeat itself. Based on this is what it is. So then let me address this now. So
Yeah. And then you may remember a thing that we talked about yesterday, when we were talking about understanding your relationship patterns, is also be aware of where you are in your life during that particular time. If you're coming out of a bad relationship or a long marriage, or you're going through kids leaving for college, or whatever, or just whatever, loss of a job, or you went to a new city, whatever it is, be aware of that, because you may not always be a person that feels codependent, right? It may be because you just came out of a marriage or something, or something happened. So just ask yourself, do I act this way all the time? When I think about past relationships, was I always this way, or is it something that has happened to me that caused me to be this way? And if this means seeking therapy or coaching or whatever, then do what you have to do, but just be aware of that as well. So you can be honest with yourself about how you're showing up in a relationship, and if you need to, make some shifts in that or change some patterns.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All
Well,
right.
Yashika, I am at the end of my single malt here, so I think that's a good signal to
Absolutely,
wrap
absolutely.
wrap it up.
And as we're wrapping up, thank you for that word. The first block of our 12 days till Christmas, we're wrapping up the mindset or the dating mindset. And so tomorrow we'll start block two, which will be our day four, block two. And this one is everyone has needs. And this particular part, this second block will go on through Sunday. And so different subjects within it, everyone has needs. But this has been amazing as always, Ronnie. This I love this journey that we're on. I love the education, the insight, the opinions, the experiences that we're able to share with our viewers. Just and together, this is I dare I say 100 years of things, of knowledge here, but it's about that combined, you know what I mean? About 100 years or close to 100 years of experience and life experience and just knowledge or whatever that we're bringing to the viewers. And so I think that this is something that everyone watching, whether they catch a small part of it or a big part, you watch it long enough, you will catch something from it. You will bring some jewels away from it, some treasures because listen, this is life. We're talking life, unfiltered, just life, just
Yes.
simply life. And so, to remind you guys, make sure that if you're not following us on IG or in Facebook, be sure to do so at the Ronnie and Yashika's Dating Discussions. Same thing on YouTube. We have a lot of videos on YouTube that you can go back and catch and spend a whole day just going through and watching all of our videos. Just come familiar with the messages we have. And just as I always say, if there's something particular that you want us to discuss or a situation that you're working through and you just need some advice, then go ahead and either DM us through any of social media or you can email us at ronnieyashika at gmail.com. And of course, everything will remain anonymous and we will reply or make a video or just bring it up in the discussion so that you can get what you need to make sure that you're out here dating in your best self. And so this has been amazing, Ronnie. And yeah,
Yes.
so you have any departing words?
I just want to also do a plug for the Dating Discussions website that if you wish to have a coaching and set an appointment with Yashika, you can also reach out to me as well on the same dating site, datingdiscussions.com. That's datingdiscussions.com. And also, you can also have the opportunity to have double the pleasure and having both of us coach you together at the same as website. So you can sit up there and go. You can go there and set up a time on the calendar, and we'll make sure that we'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And listen, we thank you again for the support. You guys have been tremendous. And the questions and the input, and again, letting us know that we do provide some value. So, again, I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to Yashika and this platform and all that we're out here doing for you all towards this holiday season.
Okay. And as we go into the new year, we're going to just give you just a little a preempt to it. Don't forget that we are on Patreon, and of the new year, we will be bringing some information and some videos that will only be available to our Patreon
Yes,
subscribers. And
yes.
so, yes, just look out for that. And yeah, don't forget to if you would like buy Ronnie a a coffee or buy myself a diet coke, either one. And our cash apps are located down below, or you could just DM us and just let us tell us thank you that you appreciate the information that we are providing. And we will catch you guys tomorrow when we kick off. Everyone needs what is it? Everyone has needs. So
Everyone
we
has
kick off
needs.
block two. Everyone has needs. And so, Ronnie, you have an amazing night, and I will catch you tomorrow.
You as well, Yashika. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.